the sea view from both windows and the door. This is the true sea view apartment. You've got sea view in this window, the entrance door, in the kitchen window, and in the other kitchen window. That's the sea view. After successfully running Airbnb in Jamaica for 6 years, we're now launching a brand new apartment in Montego Bay because lockdown due to COVID is the best time to launch property for tourists, when hardly anyone travels. Except it isn't really. But we will not let some global pandemic stop us, and there is a reason why. If you want to make money with your property in Jamaica and considering Airbnb as an option, this video is designed for you. But if you're new to our channel and wondering how come a Ukrainian living in the Caribbean does Airbnb Jamaica business, well, you might want to watch the first part of my story first. First part first. Curfew hours, quarantines, lockdowns, people are stuck in their rooms watching TV and getting stressed all over the world. The same can apply to many people in Jamaica, except for a few lucky ones who live right by the sea and have access to all of this, even during the lockdown. This is Calypso Villa, our home where we spent a major part of our life in Jamaica. It is also our main property on Airbnb. As you see, Calypso Villa is a secluded place. It's like it was designed for people to run away from it all. And of course, it can be perfect for self-isolation, which is taken to the whole new level. There is a separate entrance to each apartment, a private veranda, a hammock deck with no other people, a secluded beach with no other people, and the Caribbean Sea. So I've spent about 5 years living in this place, and that was the view I got from my bed during all that time. You know, the best thing about this apartment is obviously this window. It's just absolutely incredible. And the location too, is like the fact that it's located right here. That's right, guys, my family and I could have also been these lucky 1% of people who were living through the COVID drama in a little pocket of paradise. But you know how people tend to make bad decisions, right? After spending 5 years in Calypso Villa, we moved out just before COVID. And as a result, instead of enjoying this beautiful view and swimming every single day in the sea, I've been stuck in my studio, enjoying this view. I know, right? Why would anyone change this to this? Especially after spending all my life with the goal to live by the sea. Well, I'm going to make a separate video about that later because it's a long yet fun story. But because we moved out, we now have an extra apartment to launch. And not just any apartment, but the one with this incredible view where I spent most of my Jamaican life. The apartment has a balcony, one room, a kitchen and a bathroom. So we're going to use this place now as an example of how to launch any property on Airbnb. The first step is to turn an apartment into an Airbnb-friendly space. Short-term rental and long-term rental are a completely different story, especially when it comes to expenses and practicality. You have to pay the bills when it comes to Airbnb, so there is a limit on how low you can go with your rate per night. But with long-term tenants, you don't really worry about the bills. You don't care how they do their laundry or any details of their life, like what type of bath mat they use. But with Airbnb, every detail matters. I'm serious, even the bath mat. Look, this fluffy one, especially with a rubber, good for home, not good for Airbnb. Impossible to wash it properly in general, never mind sterilizing it after each guest. That's why hotels use tower-like bath mats, and you should too. Or this plastic shower curtain is asking for a disaster, because no matter how you wash it, it will get moldy. That's why it's better to use the one made of fabric instead, which can be thrown into a washing machine after each checkout. And this brings me to another point. Housekeeping in an Airbnb is slightly different from housekeeping in a hotel, so you cannot just copy what they do. If you start changing towels and bed lining every day like a good hotel, you will soon find that you have to charge like a good hotel too, or even more, because you don't have the luxury of doing things in bulk. Or another one, sometimes guests want to do an early check-in, come around 11 a.m, while other guests in the very same apartment want to do a late checkout and leave at 5 p.m. Well, that's not going to work, is it? A hotel would simply provide a different room, and if they are fully booked, they would allow guests to stay in a lobby. But you don't have a lobby, and you don't have an extra room. So, you either have to block a day between check-ins or have to be very strict with check-in and check-out policies. When it comes to design of your property, there are a few things to mention as well.
You see, the problem with this apartment, and it's currently all in light colors. The walls are really light. The ceiling was painted white. This means that the curtains have to be dark, because otherwise there is no contrast. Like the whole apartment is kind of blank. If you make photographs of this apartment, it's not going to stand out on Airbnb. So there is no way you want to keep an apartment like this in just light colors. That's one thing. And the other problem is that people are going to touch curtains to close them and to open them. And in less than a week, you're going to have stains all over these curtains. Generally, lighter curtains and lighter walls and lighter everything gives this, feeling of having a bigger apartment. But this is something that is highly impractical. We would be able to replace them with curtains of bright blue color.
Sure, you can add a lot of pretty items to your apartment, and it makes sense if you're trying to create something special, like rooms in a boutique hotel, and then charge for it. But this simply wouldn't be practical for a budget accommodation. Things will break, get missing, and get dusty in no time, resulting in a higher costs of running the accommodation. So it's always about finding a balance between comfort and practicality. So we got a new hammock, shower, kitchen curtains, and of course a lot of paint. You see, it's great for our health to live in a house by the sea, but our appliances wouldn't agree. Sea frost kills everything. It's like living on a boat. Things get rusty really fast, and paint starts peeling off after less than a month, especially at the bottom of the walls, because of the humidity coming from the sea breeze.
So for us to get a little contrast, we're going to be using bright blue pictures. I now painted these blue. Yeah, let's see. We have this beautiful picture. Right, we're gonna adjust this properly. Not need this. So we're gonna use 3 colors in this room. It's gonna be bright blue, dark brown, and lighter ones, like lighter walls. And this way it's gonna work just fine. You see this dark brown here for the furniture.
The next thing is to create your listing on an Airbnb platform. Let me tell you something. The problem with Airbnb is that they keep changing their interface all the time, like shifting places on the menu where you can find information about your guests, reservations, payments, and the menus themselves. The reason I'm telling you that is because the interface to create a new listing that you see now in the video will probably look completely different in about a month's time. They also have two versions of Airbnb platform, one which is an app for your phone and another one is a website that I'm using right now. You kind of need to learn both of them, but we're going to use this as a reference. Let's share the most important things. The address. Sometimes Airbnb will not be able to identify your address correctly. So if this happens, just save whatever they offer and you can adjust it later. The other thing, when you are creating a listing, they will not actually show you everything you have to fill out. So the thing here is to create a listing no matter what's in there. Launch it, and then come back and recheck everything. It's all pretty much straightforward until you get to the price and will not be able to change the currency. But again, just write anything, doesn't matter for now. Upload just one whatever photo just to finish the listing and launch it. Here we go. Now let me explain why not just finish editing properly everything and then launch it. This is because Airbnb doesn't give you an access to all of the important features before you launch the listing. So just publish the listing and you will gain an access to all of the full settings. This is where they are. And then simply unlist it right away so nobody books it until it's fully ready. And now let's see what our finished apartment looks like and get some photography done, because it is the pictures that sell your listing.
Amazing. This is the thing I miss so much about this particular room.
I've got this little window here that you can open with mesh nets.
Right. And then there is AC here. Big clock that I painted blue, and the same for this frame, and also the frames there, right? And then that one I got from Boschko. That's where I get my stuff. And then I couldn't find these kind of blue curtains, so I just got dark blue to match those pillows. Yes, and then there is a little kitchen here, right? So a little bit of decoration just to make sure it doesn't look empty. And look at this little window here. It's like on the boat. Look at that. Yeah, as if we are sailing. Look.
With photography, it is important to show every part of the apartment. But not only that, the order of the photographs is also important, as if you're walking the guest through the whole place. So I begin with the full property, and we're walking upstairs right here. Always show the entrance door. And then I personally like to install these chapters to make it easier for guests to understand what's going on. Then there is a photo of the first thing they see when they enter the apartment. And then we're taking a shot from a different angle as if they're moving from left to right. Good close-ups on strong points, like design or view. Then I show the entrance to the bathroom before we go in. The same for the kitchen door. You enter and again from left to right. And you come out. See the dresser? Close up on the dresser. Walking from left to right, close up on the door lock, the entrance door and veranda. Go out to veranda and get the view. Airbnb offers you to add the description to each photograph, but guests often cannot see it because it's too small. That's why sometimes I go a step further and also add the description into the photo itself. That's it with the apartment, but not with the photography. The other important things to mention is the area by the house. Make sure to include pictures at night and during the rain, and if there are different seasons, include shots of both summer and winter. The next step is the community nearby, the things within a walking distance, shops, cafes and restaurants. It helps to have drone shots and then add arrows pointing at places, but you can also take a screenshot of Google Maps and use it for this purpose. If you offer extra services, you can include them here and then finish off with some dramatic shots and tips. A few mistakes to avoid. Don't take multiple pictures of the same thing, like 10 photos of the same room from the same angle. I've seen people doing that, I don't know why. Don't forget about the area nearby. I cannot stress this enough because I see so many hosts showing just the actual property. But guests don't come just to stay inside. They want the whole experience, so it helps to know what's nearby. And the most important, don't try to make your photos look better than the reality. This is a very common mistake. With good photography and Photoshop, you can make any place look like a paradise. But it's like shooting yourself in the foot, because you're going to disappoint your guests when they come. In fact, it's always better when a reality is slightly better than what you can see on the photos. So you can give yourself a chance to exceed guests' expectations. Now let's go back to the platform and finish off the listing. The goal of the description is again to explain where you are located, make it very clear who the listing is for, and to set the expectations right. Here's an example of our description. It's not perfect, but this is the first thing guests see when they look at our property. Important: we have more sea view apartments in the same house. Please send a message to inquire. If you have several listings, mention this here, it definitely helps to get more reservations. Then you need to give your strongest point. This is the only private house in all of Montego Bay area right at the seaside. Which is true, because the rest of the seaside is taken by resorts and gated areas like Freeport and blocks of apartments like Sea Castle or Jewel Grande, while other properties will be located on the other side of the road across from the sea. Then you need to find your weakest point and turn it into your advantage. Doing so will ensure that you only get the guests who would truly enjoy your place. In our case, there is a local community, which is only a 5-minute walk from us, but we are far from downtown, so this is our point. We are a secluded property, which would be a bad thing for some, but advantage for others. This is how I put it. It is far from the noisy center, clubs, bars, nightlife, which makes it a perfect place for rest and relaxation. So people who want bars and nightlife would not book us, while those who want rest and relaxation by the sea would. Now, apart from the short description, I strongly suggest mentioning things you provide or you don't provide to help guests learn more about your place. I will go to other things to note and mention every single negative thing you can think of. Even if it's unlikely to happen, it's still better to put it here. Just like with photography, the goal is to set the expectations right or slightly lower for the guests, so when they arrive, it would be easier for you to exceed them. A little announcement. If you want to make money with your property in Jamaica and you would like me to look at it, help you to launch it by going through every little detail, I'm starting a Patreon page on the 12th of April where a limited number of paid consultations will be available to those who really need them. I'm just working on how much time I can invest in this, for how long, and how much I should charge for this service. There will be a separate announcement about Patreon on this channel, but if you want free help, that's also fine. I'm already doing that, at least I hope so, with this YouTube channel. Now you have a full access so you can adjust your location. Just, click on the map. Then go to pricing and change the currency if you need. Then, very important, you need to make sure you adjust the cancellation policy. Airbnb would have it as a flexible by default. If you're not happy with this cancellation policy, you can definitely change it right here, so make sure to read through all the options. Airbnb is trying to be fair for both guests and hosts. As for amenities, I'm just scrolling through this very long list Airbnb has. Look at it! There are some absolutely crazy options. What is this? Nespresso machine. Curing coffee machine. I can't even pronounce that. What is it? Probably this is because people kept asking Airbnb for this. Go on, add a rice maker now. Now, the key here is to mention important amenities or the lack of them. For example, we don't have a TV set and there is no laundry on the property. So make sure this is, clear to the guests before they book. But guess what? After all of your work to tune the listing to provide all the information and match the needs of your guests, 90% of them are not going to read the description and might not even look at all of your photographs and basically come completely unaware of the house rules, directions, check-in instructions, or anything like that. And it's a problem because you might assume that guests know something because you mentioned it somewhere, but they don't. Sometimes they book several months in advance and they simply forget. There are two ways how I personally solve this problem. 1. I created a video for guests explaining everything in an easy-to-use format, and I sent a link to this video in my very first message when guests book us. 2. Colorful guest guide directory book which guests find in their apartment when they arrive. It took me a few months to create it, but trust me, it made everything so much easier for guests. With drone shots showing where things are, the list of food places you can visit, the attractions nearby, the shops nearby, and all of this map showing exactly where things are. See? What to do in case something happens, frequently asked questions, just giving tips about different points. Then we've got house rules here to avoid roaches and things and ants, what people should do to make sure they don't get any of these, information about getting around and different activities nearby, day pass resorts and information about Airbnb. Then we also provide experience booklet, like for the kind of experience people can get and book with us. Now the final touches, and let's launch the new Calypso Villa unit on Airbnb platform together. And of course, I will leave the Airbnb link to the place in the description of this video.